All right, here we
Yes.
go.
Yes, ma'am.
In 3, 2, it is time for our quick fire 5 questions. And today's guest is Keith Keppner. He is the co-founder of Keppner Boxing. Hey, welcome to the quick fire 5, Keith.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right, you're going to be our guest next week. You're going to talk about how to start a boxing business, which I know all of our listeners are really excited to hear because they ask us all the time about kickboxing. But before we have your episode next week, we're going to get to know you. And I have a couple questions to find out who you really are.
Gotcha.
First question is, could you just tell us maybe a life lesson that you learned from the pandemic?
Yes. Oh, well, there were so many, like there are with every challenge. But I would say one thing that came to mind, really, when you ask this, is that circumstances don't create a person. They really just reveal that person, or maybe reveal the work that you've been putting in or not putting in. So those circumstances are really a great revealer for some people, specifically maybe in some businesses.
Oh, what a lovely answer. I don't think we've had anybody look at it that way before, so I really like that. All right, now here we're going to have a little fun. If you could play a character in any movie, what character would you play?
Yes, that's a hard one. I don't watch too many movies anymore, but maybe a character that Bruce Willis would play, or maybe Jason Statham. I might be reaching for that one, but maybe a Bruce Willis character because people tell me I look like him.
Okay, maybe a little bit. It's, you have a big, thick, full head of hair.
Right.
Okay, here we go. Please complete this statement. Sunday morning, you can find me.
Either doing a long run and or shopping for my wife and little girl. Grocery shopping.
Grocery shopping. That's a good one. And how about a book recommendation? Have you read anything really good that you'd like to share with our FBP family?
Yeah, so one of the best books that I've read, I've gone through cycles reading about 20 plus books a year, but one of the best ones I go back and forth to just recommend to everybody is No Excuses by Brian Tracy. That's a book that really changed my life, and I hope it will change yours if you read it.
All right. Thank you for the recommendation. And finally, I'm handing over the mic to you. You're going to get a chance to pitch your episode for next week and why our FBP family should come back and listen to your episode.
Absolutely. So you'll get to hear perspectives from somebody who struggled with a chronic illness that led to me dropping out of high school and literally at age 25, sleeping on a mattress in my sister's basement, to growing a business now at age almost 35. We have half a dozen franchise units. We have a successful business, corporate location. So you get to hear those perspectives, as well as details about what I believe is going to be the biggest fitness trend to come, which is a certain unique way that it's going to be provided with in-person fitness.
All right, everybody, you heard it straight from Keith. Come on back next week as we talk about how to start a boxing business.
That's right.
All right, that was easy peasy. Good
Yes.
job. All right, so that's done. Now we move on to our main interview. Should be somewhere around no more than 20 minutes. So
Cool.
18 to 20 minutes. I have a couple questions here. I'm going to run through, make sure we're on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, basically, I'm going to ask you, is boxing for everyone? Now, when I say boxing, do you want me to incorporate kickboxing, or do you just really want me to stick with the
That's a great question. That's a great question, Dori. So we can just stick purely to boxing because, that is kind of what we're hardcore focused on. My wife, for instance, who's the other co-founder, she fought over 22 fights, and a lot of those were in Muay Thai, kickboxing, and MMA. But we find the special niche to be boxing. And the answer to that question is that boxing is for everybody. Kickboxing might not be for everybody.
Okay. So can you remember to say that when I ask you the question?
Yeah.
I love that right there.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So your special niche is boxing then.
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay. So that's going to be our first question. And then I'm going to basically say, hey, what's right with the current boxing gym models that
Sure.
are out there today? Then, of course, I'm going to say, okay, could you tell us what's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I'll somehow phrase that. Sometimes I switch it. I'll be like, all right, give me a right
Sure.
and give me a wrong, but I'm basically
Cool.
the same thing. And then we go to what are the biggest challenges that you're seeing? That one's always a good one. Our FBP family loves to hear how because everybody's struggling. They're all struggling. So they like to hear that somebody like you as an industry expert can say, hey, yeah, we struggled and this is what we learned. And so
absolutely.
And then we'll wrap up with our last question is some advice. We'd love to have just some advice from our
super cool. Yo, let me ask you this. Is my volume okay?
Yep, your volume's great.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. Cool.
All right, I'm going to count us down and then I'll do an little introduction. We'll just do just a teeny bit of banter in the very beginning, not a lot. And then I'm going to get right to question number 1. Okay,
cool.
All right, here we go in 3, 2. Hey, Keith, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast. I believe this is your first time as a guest here on the show.
Absolutely, Dori. Super excited.
We're really excited to have you here. We get asked all the time about boxing. So we searched high and low. We found you. You have 6 franchise partners. You're the co-founder of Keppner Boxing. You know what? Let me start over.
You're good.
I want to organize that a little bit better. Okay. Keith Keppner is our industry expert today. Keith is the co-founder of Keppner Boxing. Keith, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Dori.
Yeah, first time on the show. We love our first time. So welcome to the family.
Thank you.
All right. And you have a boxing gym and it looks like you're up to 6 franchise partners.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. You started. Quickly. Yeah, you are growing quickly. Just tell me a little bit. You started out in Athens, Georgia.
Yep. So up in North Georgia, the home of UGA. And we started off as just a mom and pop style business and grew it to a pretty large scale where we could step out of it and then started offering franchises in the middle of the pandemic.
All right. So you definitely found your niche in the fitness industry and we love that.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
I think I heard through the grapevine. Tell me a little bit about the other co-founder.
Yes. So, we're a husband-wife business. My wife, Lissa Keppner, she fought 22 fights in Muay Thai, MMA, kickboxing, and boxing. So really every type of combat sport. And it was her skills combined with my skills that made this business work and grow. And it was, I remember when we were first starting out, she was saying like, we need to just focus purely on boxing. And that's what my background is, purely boxing. I was like, well, how about maybe, people are asking for a little bit of kickboxing, a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And she's like, no, let's focus on one thing and get really good at it. And that's what we've done.
I love the fact that partnerships work best when 2 people have 2 different strengths. And it sounds like that you and your wife
big time
recognized that and brought it together to become a powerhouse.
Oh, big time. So, I mean, like the joke is, or, the facts are that she would have a really, really strong, super, super small business if she goes to her inclinations. And I would grow a very big business that was literally probably like rotting from the inside or just very unstable. So.
All right. Well, we brought you on today to talk about boxing. So let's get started with our first question. And that is, we really just want to know from you. And that is the boxing fitness, the fitness end of it, is it really for everyone or is it just for a specific group or age group?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And an important distinction is, boxing versus kickboxing. So let's just talk purely about boxing. Is it for everyone? It absolutely is for everybody. One reason that I make a distinction with kickboxing is that kickboxing, don't get me wrong, great combat sport, great sport, and great workout. The challenge with that can be you're going up on one foot, so it can be challenging for people with balance issues. It's also can be hard on your lower back, your sacrum, your shins, things of that nature, because you don't have gloves on your shins and whatnot. So that's where boxing really, it can serve everyone from young kids as a great type of one-on-one or small group training onward and upwards to even people with Parkinson's. We've had a Parkinson's program for going on 6-7 years now. And that's something that's become fairly popular. But one reason it's become so popular is because you can really make it accessible to such a wide variety of people. We have a lot of people that come to us that maybe did some other type of martial art before, and their body just can't handle it anymore. And they find that boxing is the perfect way for them to get that outlet without damaging their body.
All right. Well, I love the fact you talked about Parkinson's. I have seen that around a little bit with different clubs starting the Parkinson's program. I think that's genius.
Oh, it's amazing. It's a phenomenal group and it's a real great service.
Yeah, and I also really like your points about kickboxing versus boxing and the balance factor. And you're right about being on one foot and people maybe being, especially the older population, I know they have to work on balance, but sometimes they're a little intimidated going into a kickboxing class.
Oh yeah, and so everyone knows this is a common misconception, is that boxing is only an upper body workout, and when done right and correctly, absolutely not. Even throwing a punch involves your legs, much, of course, a movement and all that other stuff. But even just throwing a punch, if done right, is not just an arm activity or upper body activity.
Right. It's a lot like swinging a baseball bat.
That's right. It's just like it. Exactly.
The legs and the hips and the upper body to get the power. So
that's right.
Understand where you're coming from that. So great point. So with being our expert again today, can you please tell everybody out there listening, maybe break it into two, like what is right with the current boxing models out there and what's wrong with the current boxing models that are out there?
Absolutely, Dori. So that's a great question. Really, there's two main types of structures out there with business, with boxing. And that's, you have the authentic boxing gym, which is how we started. Think of the movie Rocky, right? If you think of a boxing gym, classic boxing gym, that's what that is. And then you have the fitness boxing gym. So they're kind of two extremes of that concept. So the authentic boxing gym, it has a lot of positive points that you really oftentimes learn the art and the science of boxing. You build real character. It's a really nice, tight-knit community. And then the advantages with the fitness boxing is that it's, they got great service, really customer oriented. They're good at signing people up and things like that. But there's a place where, or a few places where both of those models struggle. One is with retention. Both of them really churn through clients pretty quickly, because if you're only doing, one way to think about it is just fitness wearing boxing gloves, you get pretty bored and you move on to another modality, whether it's like rowing or, spin class or something like that. And then, because you only get so and so much results over about maybe 3 or 4 months. And then with the authentic boxing gym, there's a big barrier to entry. It's really hard for them to sign people up. It's hard to get, frankly, to have people just walk through the door. And then there's also a scalability challenge. And that is that oftentimes those businesses are based off of one expert or one good boxing coach. And then once that person goes or retires or whatever, the business is gone and it doesn't exist anymore.
You mean like Mickey in the...
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that's what I was raised around. So my father's a professional boxing coach. He's also a PhD in neuroscience, clinical psychologist. So I got an interesting mix there. And he thought that the only type of boxing gym you could have was that pure competitive boxing gym, only focused on creating pros, blood on the wall. If you couldn't hang and fight the first day, you didn't belong. And so that's where I grew up around that, thinking that was the only way it could be done. And I thought the only other way was the watered down fitness, just wearing boxing gloves while you like hit a bag and don't really learn anything.
So tell me, if I walked into Keppner Boxing, what am I going to experience?
Well, so we, again, really focused on getting the best of those both worlds. So the moment you walk through, a really warm hello, we get on that first name basis right away. And then we tell everybody, because it's the truth, we love beginners, because even if Dori, even if you wanted to do a competitive fight or something like that, we would prefer to have you at zero, no experience, so we can teach you the basics from the beginning, no matter what level you want to get to. And so we'll give you a demo on your basics, just going over some basic punches in your stance. And then we love to give people a first session free, just to have them experience the community. And it's just a really infectious, positive, yet sincere environment.
Okay. And tell me aesthetically, what does it look like? Is there a ring in there? Is it just a whole bunch of boxing bags? Do you have any equipment?
Yeah. So the main core is there. That's one thing of the beautiful things about the simplification of the model, is that it is just bags. There is a ring. One thing that makes us different is we do utilize the ring for teaching, but also for sparring for certain clients of certain programs. We have 2 main programs, a fitness boxing and contact program. And we have found that to be perfect to serve the two different demographics we attract, because I've seen boxing gym owners struggle with this, is they'll sometimes kind of mishmash those programs together or not have a clear distinction between the two. And then someone who doesn't want to get in the ring and get hit is scared to come in, or scared to come in on certain days, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have 2 clear programs. One is more focused on fitness while still teaching real technique, but you never get hit. The other one is contact, where you truly learn it like a martial art. But in that program, we've also produced multiple Golden Glove champions from scratch.
All right. And I just want to know, like, do you get the bell? Do you get to ring?
Yeah, you get all that. Yeah, you get all that. You get all that. You get all the great stuff, none of the bad stuff.
All righty. So what do you find are the biggest challenges that you see just for first-time business owners that are trying to open up a boxing club?
That's a great question. So, and it really applies across the board, really with any fitness, but truly definitely with boxing. So oftentimes, well, you tell me, Dori, who do you think is going to be the type of person typically to want to open up a boxing club? What do you think?
Okay. For me, it's,
yeah, what do you think?
It's your male, athletic, maybe, you know, again, it's just that stereotypical guy.
Yeah.
He has the
absolutely.
martial arts or the wrestling background. But I don't see the female. I just, you know, right off the bat, seeing the female opening the gym.
True. Well, that's very true. Very true there. And so what that leads to, you know, because what you literally made the exact profile of that person typically. And so what that leads to is they create an environment that without knowing, without thinking about it, is not really female friendly. And also just being a guy, I suffer from this too. When I started running my own place, was my wife told me, you don't need to mug everyone that comes to the door, like mean mug them, because you have this, maybe this, you're thinking that somebody is going to maybe try to challenge you or something like that. But little did I know that actually, if you meet people with kindness, that's real confidence, and they feed off that. And so it's really cool to see specifically guys come through our door and they'll be standoffish, kind of tough guy acting. And then we just kill them with kindness. And then they warm up and they go, oh man, cool. I can relax. I don't need to put on a front. And so it's just a really beautiful thing. It's like, we're real proud, Dori, about how we get these real like macho type guys. And then, you know, we don't take away the good parts of the macho, but we get rid of that excess ego and help them, you know, get in touch with themselves and be a little bit more truly confident. But anyway, so that type of person is the type of person that starts the business. They started off because they like boxing, or they like fitness, or they like combat sports. All right. And that's the majority of boxing gyms or any type of combat, you know, facility of any type is started like that. And so the challenge is that they think that their passion and their interest alone will create a successful business, but the challenge is that won't work. And of course, you know, something never like a pandemic would ever happen to wipe you out, but it might. And if it does, it's going to reveal who did their homework or not. So when you open up your own boxing business or any fitness business or any business of any of that nature, the key word is business. So you have to embrace the fact that you have to become a business owner, and you have to do what all the other business owners do. That's boring, that's lame. But the way that it was framed to me that really helped me was realizing that, okay, in order to do what I want to do, I have to do the hard stuff first, right? And I have to get really good at that. And that is what built up the base, so that now I don't work in the location that I own, and anything that I do in there, maybe a little staff related stuff. And then I get to work with some of our fighters, you know, here and there, but I make a living off the business and everything else, you know, so I have, it's, you know, I don't have to go to like some other job or whatever.
So I'd love to ask this question. So if I have a bar, a female on a guest that owns a bar studio, I always like to say, okay, I pretty much know who your typical member walking through the door is. So I always like to say, hey, what do you do to try to get men through the door? So I'm going to ask you that question again. You're probably primarily getting men, and the girls or the females that are coming in are the badass chicks, you know, that want to get, you know, take out. Sure. Let me start over. I stuttered too much.
You're good. You're good.
Blah, blah, blah. So I love to ask this question when I have, for example, a guest on that's a bar studio owner. We know that most of their members walking through the door are going to be females. And I always like to say, what do you do to try to get the males in, right? So I'm going to take that question and ask you, what do you do to try to get the females, or maybe like the older postmenopausal type woman through your doors?
Yeah, that's a great question. With aggressive marketing, but also the marketing is based all around the fitness aspect, you know, the fun aspect, things like that. We don't spend any focus worrying about trying to legitimize us as a boxing facility, because a mentor of mine early on told me, he's like, dude, Keith, don't worry about it. Those people will come. because it was back like maybe 2015. And I, was really like, oh man, I want to grow this thing as me as a boxing coach and have a business that works. He's like, Keith, don't worry about it. The fighters will come. People that, want to do that stuff, they'll come. You don't need to market to them. Market to the general public, the ladies and the guys that don't, because it's funny. People will literally think about still, even with all the marketing we do for like my location, still think about coming to us for about 2 years sometimes before they get enough courage to walk through the door. And so that, of course, goes into the systems of our business. Like we have an extensive sales follow-up that we do and everything else, because the moment someone raises their hand and had that little moment of courage, let's say, or interest, we want to make sure that, we serve them to the best of our ability. And again, like I said, that first impression is key. On average, I believe research says it takes about 7 times or 7 re-encounters to undo a bad first impression. So we want to make sure we do it right the first time.
I can believe that. Now, if somebody came up to you, you're at a fitness conference and they realize who you are and they come up to you and they say, hey, what is your advice if I wanted to start my own boxing business?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say start with the end in mind. So start with what you want to have at the end of your business journey. So if you want to be a sole proprietor, cool. If you want to be a hobby, cool. That's how a lot of people start a business and they don't really truly embrace that in the beginning. So if you want to do that, great. If you want to have something that you can actually make a living off of, again, embrace the fact that you're going to have to build systems. You have to do the boring work. But also, I would say this has been my key point from growing our business, but also stepping into a whole new business, which is a franchise business, is getting around people that are further along than you are and realize that no one is actually better than you. They're actually just further along. And everything is learnable and everything is hard before it is easy. So it's just realizing that, hey, if you're not very good with, let's say, sales, let's say maybe systems and policies and procedures, just accept that fact, but embrace that in order to actually have a business that operates and is going to actually make money and not just break even, you're going to have to do that.
I love your quote there. Get around people that are further than you are. That's right. That's a great quote. That is a great quote. I think I might use that.
Thank you. And I'll tell you a tip real quick for people to do that, because it's something I used to struggle with, Dori, a lot. It's like, how do I find, because we're in Athens, Georgia. There's not that many people here. Yeah, it's a college town, but whatever. People are coming and going all the time. And I was just like, man, how do I get around people that know what I need to know so I can, model them and learn from them? And what I've found, and it's been correct 2 times. So it's been correct with growing our business and correct with growing a franchise. When you're actually doing the work that it needs to be done and really committing yourself to victory with it, you will, when you come across somebody who is at a higher level, they will see that and they will respect that. And then when you reach out to them, they'll know that you're the real deal and they'll be happy to help you. I've helped out so many people who are below our level, who have come to me that I've seen what they've been doing with their feet, not what they've been doing with their mouth. And so that's really the biggest thing, is when people above you see you really working hard at what you're doing and being willing to learn and have humility, they'll be happy to help you.
Oh, well, thank you so much you have great advice for anybody out there listening that is contemplating opening a boxing gym, or if they weren't before this episode, maybe they are now. And we will make sure that we put your contact information in our show notes so they can reach out to you and maybe ask you questions that I didn't ask you, or maybe just, additional questions that they can think of.
I'm always happy to help. And one thing, it's funny, I'll attest to that fact that, when I sometimes get on sales calls with people interested in the franchise, and maybe they're not a great fit for the franchise because they really just want to start their own thing, right? I always do my best to leave them with some type of, some type of tool, some type of advice, something they can take away from that. And if they implement it, it's going to make a big difference.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I'd love to check out one of your clubs. I just want to make sure I get the robe, the belt, and the bell. And do I have to wear the silky shorts?
No, you can wear whatever you want. But one thing that's cool is you don't have to take your shoes off, right? Because we're boxing. You don't have to take your shoes off.
There we go. Well, Keith, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. We appreciate that you're sharing all of your expert advice, and hope to have you on again sometime in the future. And best of luck with your franchise. I hope that next time I meet you, you tell me that you have a dozen, not a half, but a dozen.
Yeah. Hey, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Dori Nugent, your host, along with Keith Keppner.
Thanks so much, Dori.
All right, that's awesome. We have one segment left, and
Cool.
that's your Fitbizpiration question. It's a sponsored question for us, and that is, what are your top 3 tips for launching a boxing business? So you can give 3 tips that you've already talked about. You can give new ones, whatever you want to do. This should be short, maybe a minute.
I got you.
Okay.
Thank you. Pretty short.
I'm going to ask you the question. Then you just go, and whenever you're done, pause, because I won't give you a follow-up question for this one. Okay.
Cool.
All right, here we go. What are your 3 tips to launching a boxing business?
I would say, first off, realize what it is that you want to accomplish with it. Do you want to just have a side business, a side hustle, something that's going to maybe support itself? Or do you want something that's actually going to be like what I have, where it is my whole source of income? Okay. So you have to start off deciding what that's going to be. Find some people or some resources that are going to help show you the way. Don't try to reinvent the wheel until you've literally hit the peak that is above everyone else. You need to create your own thing. You probably need a model, especially in the beginning. And then last thing is commit to doing whatever you're going to be doing when you start your business for at least 5 years. It's going to take about 5 years for you to get any real traction. I see too many business owners start off with their boxing gym or even fitness gym, and they throw in the towel in a year or 2 years into it. And all the gold and all the reward is about 5 years down the line.
Okay, that's a wrap. We're done. Great job.